Hello, everybody. We are going to talk about the London system today,
Indeed.
but specifically how to handle it. And John's going to show us some home-cooked preparation, if you like, but just show us some principles in how he goes about dismantling it or getting people out of their comfort zone.
Yes. It's no secret, those of you who've been regular readers of the Bristol Chess Times, that I'm not a huge fan of the London system. Quick caveat, not because it's a bad system, not because I dislike people who play it, I just find it frustrating as the player of the black pieces to see it as often as we do in amateur chess. I mean, hats off to Grandmaster Simon Williams for the success of him promoting the London system, but also there's that Magnus guy, I think, he's quite good, that he's really helped push forward this. And in recent years in club chess, I think there's a lot of Londons being played. So today I'm going to talk you through an anti-London system that I've cooked up for club players.
And let's just show some the typical idea for white. Or this is the setup that they want. So the pawns, as you can see, there's only one pawn on the fourth rank in the centre, so it's not particularly challenging, but it sort of shields the white pieces. And meanwhile, they're kind of pointing not so subtly towards the
it's not a subtle
black king side, if they castle king side. So often you might see a bishop b1, queen c2, and really just go for h7.
Yeah, and that's the kind of standard London approach, and it's this kind of structure that I want to start from, because in amateur chess, what you see a lot of is players who know these rules they've come up with. They kind of, I know the attacking plans on the king side, and they kind of bash out the first 8 or 10 moves quite quickly.
I mean, this is 8 moves, and they'll try to stick to those in some order.
So let's look at what I've come up with.
Yeah, we should say that you wrote a blog about this.
Yeah.
But it relies on white playing 3c4.
Yes.
Which actually, you found not many players playing.
And that's the key thing for today's video. So the system that we've been playing, or I've been playing, is this early bishop to f5, which I believe Grandmaster Simon Williams called the copycat variation. And a lot of theory proposed by Simon and others are with an immediate c4 with queen to b3 and hitting the b7 pawn. Not going to talk about that today. That is mainline theory. The reason we're not going to talk about it is in amateur chess, when I play to bishop f5, I am not seeing the c4 push. There's plenty of things we can talk about, maybe in another video if we proceed with the c4 push. My point is, at amateur chess, because everybody knows the structure of the London system, what we are routinely seeing time and time again is white just proceeding to adopt the first 8 or so moves that we have seen. So let's dive into the first line of my system, or the general principles. The first principle, rapid queenside castling.
So John's got a few of these opening sets of principles, really, and he often shows openings to me because I'm really bad at memorising lines. So he looks at it in terms of principles, and there's only 4 to remember.
There's only 4. It's also quite my Achilles heel, because Mike's one of those people who does that thing called calculation, and so thinking, actually analysing the board. So I'm very good with my principles, but where I tend to fall down is where one of the principles is broken, which is ironic given that this whole system I'm showing you today with Mike is all about trying to break principles for the white player of the London system.
So do just check for blunders. But
do your blunder checks, but in general, rapid queenside castling. And obviously the key thing behind the rapid queenside castling is the white player is expecting to launch a kingside attack. And by castling queenside as rapidly as you can, suddenly white is thrown back onto their own resources about what's their new plan going to be. And I think in amateur chess, making good, accurate plans is a key weakness of players.
Yeah, so they would probably castle first and then think about a new plan.
Yeah.
But here comes your second.
This is the key. This is the key move. Yeah. So once you've rapidly castled queenside, we're looking at this f6 move, and the plan is basically to toss your kingside pawns forward towards the king. Now, f6 controls a couple of squares, controls e5, stopping any knight shenanigans later on, but also really sets up the nice threat of the g5 and the h5 spikes, as I call them, really hitting the bishop quite quickly. The best move for white in this position is an immediate h4. And we've run this through a computer. In general, with this approach, we're not claiming a refutation of the London system. If you run it into a computer, white is going to be probably somewhere between half a pawn and a pawn ahead. But that's what the silicon monsters like to tell us. Yes. I'm perfectly happy with this kind of position.
Very hard to see why as well. I mean, white does have to contend with e5 as well.
Exactly. There's
e4.
As a black player here, I've got a number of options on the table. But really, my favourite is simply to keep with the plan. So h6, and you're still going to threaten g5, and you're going to start opening up. I mean, Mike, you come up with a line where maybe you push again. But this is just falling to bishop g4. I think there's very little white can do in this instance if black really wants to toss forward the g5 pawns. So I mean, what can white do here after h6? Mike, do you have a move for white?
I'm kind of struggling because it's a bit of a committal plan to try and stifle these pawns coming, and then you have to then compound on that and keep trying. But I prefer to ignore it.
And in true professional manner, we're going to have to just take a moment to plug the computer in before we lose the stream. So yeah, it's all live, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, sorry, Mike. What was that last part you were saying?
Well, I was saying I don't know what to play as white because I probably wouldn't play h4. It looks like a computer move. Yeah. The black pawns look scarier than mine.
So let's say white continues following the tabia position, something like c3, and then this is the fun line for black because white is basically played into our hands. Yeah. And sometimes the white player, as I've seen often, is thinking I'm going to do the e5 push, but it's g5, and here black is having all the fun. Here, almost forced is h3. You hit the bishop again, and it's very simple plan. And then we're going to stop analysing here. But I think most people would look at this position and say, okay, I'd rather be black, or at least black's plan is going to be a bit more fun. So, what can happen then after this f6 move is, well, there's always the choice that white could just trade off the white bishops. This, to be honest with you, this doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, the queen on f5.
Queen on f5 is actually a piece.
You can't really attack that satisfactorily, and you still got g5.
Yep, you're holding it, and the plan remains the same. So, what can often happen, and I think the best move here, and the second principle that I want people to think about is after f6, if white does what is generally the best plan. So black's plan is throw the kingside pawns forward. Here, what white you think something along the lines of c4 is probably
I think that's
the best
pretty
plan.
much the move.
Start your
start undermining the other pawn in the centre. The e5 can. So yeah.
And when I see c4, the third principle is, or the I want people watching to think about if they're going to play this line, is when do I trade the bishop on f5? And for me, as soon as white is starting their queenside attack, I'm going to trade. Because what we're going to see here then is probably like an e6. And then, remember, black's plan is still remaining the same. Controlling this centre, reducing the mobility of this knight. I've always got the option of bringing the bishop out to d6, maybe trading the bishop. But my favourite plan really is the g5 threat. And really, why I like this in this position even more after e6 is we've got what I like to call let's say white sometimes clamps us down. You're still opening up and your attack is still faster.
Yeah, I like this because you're taking advantage of the ideal setup that they have, and I think this is a good rule when you're trying to come up with these anti-systems. So white has e3 because they wanted the bishop on d3, but that restricts their bishop. So really logical to play f6 g5.
Yeah,
trap that bishop.
It's the f6 move that's key to all of this, and it stems from there. And normally, I think this is about equal probably, but the white player is having to think outside their comfort zone as well. And another plan I often use here is what I call the queen swinger. Unlike a rook swinger, the queen goes swinging. The king isn't that happy about it, but they obviously need to talk about their relationship a little bit. But this queen over to the h file.
H7 straight away, can you? But
you can't.
Maybe G7 and
it doesn't. H7, G7. I'm sure here, in general principles, you can see how I can start building an attack.
Yeah.
Or also another plan for black could be maybe knight out to E7 or H6 and looking at the F5 square again. And all of these kind of moves are easy to find, easy to play.
So how about white? Do they have an easy plan?
Yeah, well, I think that's what those two lines we've just looked at are basically, I think, if white tries to stick too closely to the traditional tabia kind of setup that we looked at the start of the video. The major risk for me is with the rapid queenside castling is if white decides they're going to start a rapid queenside attack.
Of course, yeah.
Let's say C3. Sometimes white plays to keep their structure, and then as soon as I've castled kingside, white throws forward the queenside pawns. There's many move orders to how this could happen. I think all we're going to talk about in today's video is should white start a very fast queenside attack. And the final principle is a defensive principle for black if you're going to play this, and that is to still stick to your plan. I'll still play F6 in this kind of scenario, and then if white chooses to, also they may toss forward A4. But if white continues, say, at some point in time, your knight on C6 is going to be threatened. The first principle is allow this to happen. Under no circumstances should you play A6. If you play A6, you're just saying, white, here's the game. Because white is going to rip apart the pawns in front of your king far faster. You're giving white a target.
Yeah.
So do not advance the kingside
pawn,
the queenside.
B8, which is another normal move.
Yeah, because you're removing the square, yeah.
Yeah, so actually the knight going back to B8 looks like you're sort of suffocating that king, but it might be a kind of good kind of suffocation, right?
Yeah.
It's a cocoon.
It's a cosy defence. There's no lies, and we're not pretending here that this is not going to be black's going to have it all their own way. But stick to the plan. Stay focused. Should white advance B5, the key move I always remember is knight to B8. You can go to A5. Although you could go there, but this is the key principle: is this retreat knight to B8 is, in my opinion, solid, and you've still, again, black is still maintaining their original plan with their threats of G5 on the bishop.
So worth mentioning there are plans of Queen A4, something like that. Normally, they would have played A4s before that, but you can actually give up that
I do give up the A pawn. Yeah. This is my point about why I like the knight on B8, because you can give up the A pawn and just continue your attack.
Check.
White
so
needs
very,
more
very sharp,
pieces in their attack, quite frankly, and they don't have the pieces. If you do, let's just quickly look at this. You could go to knight A5.
You can do that because you've got C4,
and you've got B6 solidifying the knight at some point.
I quite like that sometimes, but if they get a piece to on A5, they just take it. Even though it takes.
Yeah, so I think I prefer knight to B8 because you're denying white targets. And I think that final comment really is one of the principles behind this approach to the London system. Is all the way through you'll see what I've tried to do is to stop playing into white's hands. By castling queenside, you're saying, okay, well your plan was going to be attack me on kingside, what are you going to do now? By not playing A6, by retreating the knight to B8, I'm kind of saying, okay, well, I'm not giving you a target, right, so what are you going to do? And I'm not saying black is better, but at club level, these are important question marks to put to your opponent, and I've had a lot of success with this line. I'm undefeated in the league playing this line, and online in kind of blitz and rapid chess, I score around about 55-60% as black, which is strong at kind of an 1800-1900 kind of level as well.
Yeah, so I mean, give it a go if you also face the London system a lot, and also send in.
Maybe you got a refutation to my approach.
Yes, anti-London.
The anti-London. I like it.
So if you've got any home cooked openings or reputations of common ones, we'd be really interested in showing those.
We'd love to talk a bit more about club openings, wouldn't
Yes,
we? There's plenty
exactly.
of DVDs and books out there on the Berlin, but we're not seeing Berlins in the club, are we?
I saw one the other day, but it was in the very top division, and I think that's the only place you see it.
The upper echelons of league chess.
But also read the blog, the original
we'll
anti-London
put
blog.
all of our anti-London blog links in the description.
Yeah, let's see what you think, and come back for the next video.
Yeah, thanks for listening
Thank you.
and watching.